welcome to the Television Affair. My one greeting to you all. I am Johnny Robinson, and today we're looking at the stuff that the TV used to be made of. No, we're not going to be looking at glass, plastic, wood effect stuff, or even copper. I mean, what was on it, and I'm not talking about flowers. We're talking about the stuff that was on it, which is the TV. We're picking up where we left off in the last episode, looking at channels that you could get on your Skybox before 1997. So I mentioned last time that we're not picking any new channels after 1997, but if it launched before 1997, we might delve into what happened to it in its future. Now, we're not looking at channels also that launched on Sky Digital either, because this is pure analog, baby. Previously, we looked into the satellite and cable network structure coming out of the 1980s and into the 90s, along with channels such as Comedy Channel, QVC, UK Living, UK Gold, Trouble, The Box, Cartoon Network, TNT, Nickelodeon, and the Paramount Channel. Not forgetting VH1 and the Sci-Fi Channel in episode 2. Now, if you've not seen the last few episodes, check out the link in the description box, or just have a look at the channel. Right, first one for today, EBN. European business news was short-lived, launching in 1995, and by 1998 it got merged with CNBC and became CNBC Europe. I could never tell the difference between NBC and CNBC. It's not that I don't understand the difference between them both, it's just they're so boring and so generic, and so much of it was from America, and NBC used to have a lot of shared programming with it, including a lot of business news. Whether that was from CNBC or somewhere else, couldn't tell you any difference between it. Why have both? It's just a waste of money. You could literally just put them both on one channel and broadcast it as one thing. But no, they had to have two, and every time I watched it, I couldn't watch it for more than 5 minutes without tearing my skin off, which is why my left hand doesn't have skin, I'm just bones. Yes, that's right, I went through life with having one skeletal hand.
You're watching CMT, Country Music Television.
Country Music Television Europe came on air in 1992, and it joined the Sky multi-channels in 1993. It shared a transponder with Discovery Channel on air from midnight until 4 p.m, and then it moved to a different transponder to be on till 7 p.m. in 1994. It went 24 hours in 1997, but it looks like that we weren't just ready for 24-hour country music here. It left cable and satellite in 1998.
CMT will cease its 24-hour broadcast from 31st March 1998. CMT will continue to support country music throughout Europe. Please be assured that your letters are welcome at our head office in Nashville by writing to CMT Viewer Services, 1 Gaylord Drive, Nashville, Tennessee, 37214, USA. We would like to thank all our dedicated viewers for writing and supporting this channel.
The Discovery Channel Europe launched in April 1989. It should have been probably covered in the first video, but I didn't do it. It was the first version of the station outside of the US, and it would start at 4 p.m. in the afternoon. So when you got home, you could go home and learn some more. In 1993, it switched to the Astra satellite and shared a transponder with CMT, and it became part of the Sky multi-channels network. TLC would take up CMT's transponder space in 1994, and Discovery would extend to 10 hours a day. It played documentaries about animals, history, and I remember some programs about plane crashes, and the voiceover would say something like, "Nobody ever knew what happened to Flight 441 on November the 19th, 1983, but witnesses on the ground say they believe they saw an unidentified flying object circle the aircraft before it disappeared." Discovery joined Sky Digital in 1998, and it's still on air. there. It's part of the Warner Brothers Discovery EMEA group, which stands for Europe, Middle East and Africa, and its sister station currently with Animal Planet, CNN International, Cartoon Network, Boomerang, Cartoonito, Discovery History, Discovery Science, Discovery Turbo, D-Max, The Food Network, HGTV, Investigation Discovery, Quest, Quest Red, Really, TLC and TCM. TLC, the learning channel, was in that list, and they had programs about DIY when they first launched. That's where I discovered Bob Ross. It would have a few name changes to Discovery Home and Leisure in 1998, and again in 2005 as Discovery Real Time, and then again as Discovery Shed in 2009, which is a shit name. I'm sorry. They'd have been better off calling the network the Paint Drying Network. In fact, that could be quite cool, actually. I've had a proper think about it. Check this out. The whole point of the station is for it to be entertaining, but the only thing you've got is paint drying, right? And what makes a station entertaining is the presenters they've got on it and what they do. So you get people to call in, and something was like pre-painted before the show, like a shed or something, and then what would happen is that the people that call in would have to guess when the shed was dry, and then if it was dry by the time when they thought it was, they win a prize or a vouchers for B&Q or something, or the rest of the paint that painted the shed. But if they got paint on their hands, then that means the person lost, and they go to the next person. Like I said before, the station is held together by the presenters. That's what makes it good. So here's who I'd have. Firstly, two obvious ones I mentioned before, Paul Lavers and Greg Scott. They'd be really good presenters for the station. I think that they would bring some laughs and also some style to the station. Katie Fortnum from CBBC, she seems like a good presenter as well. John Briggs, for the reasons I mentioned in the last episode. Paul Lancaster, again, for reasons mentioned in the last episode. Lucy Alexander for her enthusiasm and energy. Yolanda Coppell, because when was the last time you even saw her on television? And then finally this little cheeky chappy, and his name is Painty, and the reason for him is so he kind of adds a little bit of spice to the shows whenever the people are on. Some of these people have got experience with puppets, so they'll be used to it. It'll be fine. So I just wanted to explain Painty. He's a hedgehog. He loves painting. He's got spines on his back, and he's just basically there for banter, really. And the reason why I picked a hedgehog is because dogs have been done. Hacker, cats, DJ Cat, Aardvarks. Not hedgehogs though. So there we go. First hedgehog for you. Anyway, back to the job in hand. It turns out that in 2013, somebody looked at the channel and said, you know what, actually, I think TLC was quite a good name, so let's go with that. And the new TLC would be a different format. So instead of learning how to build furniture, TLC would show us how to build tables, ladders and chairs that could help us win the tag team championships. That's the wrong TLC. Really? More like... Actually, I found that one more satisfying to watch, but I'm really digressing here. This one would be less DIY and furniture based and more on terrible TV. Programs like 90 Day Fiancé and If Katie Hopkins Ruled the World, Oh My God, I'm in Hell Right Now, and Say Yes to the Dress. It's basically lifestyle on coke. The House of Mouse, or the Disney Channel, launched in 1995, 6 years after it should have done, after a falling out with Sky. In the original deal, they felt that the 50-50 joint venture wasn't fair on them, so they pulled out and took it to the judge. They'd eventually repair things, and a deal was finally made, and the channel pretty much showed everything Disney. That would include the classic films, as well as the classic shows, and new programs made especially for the channel. These range from the films such as Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and the original shows based on more recent films like Hercules and Timon and Pumbaa. As it went into the 2000s, shows like Hannah Montana, Lizzie McGuire, and That's So Raven, along with other sitcoms, would air. At one point, Nickelodeon even dropped the ball, and Disney made new seasons of Doug. They were a bit more grown up. Not really sure, to be honest. If I personally count them as canon, I'd just rather remember Doug as the original Doug. Oh yeah, and they also did something similar with Sabrina the Teenage Witch. They went on to launch other Disney channels. However, in 2019, it was decided that the operation would wind down in favour for the company putting all their efforts into Disney+. And Disney channels would all drop like flies all across the world in 2020, with ours dying in October 2020, 25 years to the day after its launch. They didn't even say goodbye. To be honest, it's a bit of a shitbag thing to do.
This is CNN International.
CNN International launched in 1987. I know I should have put it in the first episode, but the thing is, if I did that, then the video would have lasted a day, and I know how much of some of you would really like that, but I just couldn't do it. So actually, CNN stands for Cable News Network, and it was founded in 1980 by satellite TV pioneer and media mogul Ted Turner and his friend, journalist and news executive Reese Schofield. It was pitched as a 24-hour news service, which some people in the time thought was a completely mad idea and it would never work. To be fair though, it seems like only that kind of thing would be a very Ted Turner thing to do. Because if you've seen footage of him, his logic seems to be to do the opposite thing that the other people are doing, dummy! Hence, everyone plays out entertainment, so he'll just do the news. The network was built on the foundation that it was all about the facts, unlike other news networks that would take sides. Fox. Sorry, I get terrible coughs like that. Sometimes it sounds like I'm calling somebody a racist, or maybe saying they're transphobic or something. Strangely, it tends to happen when I'm near an image of Piers Morgan of some sort. There are different versions of CNN International. The one that we had was for Europe, and it mainly shared and contributed to the main output of CNN International, which was a lot bigger. They had newsrooms in London, in the same place actually as Super Channel and Music Box with Virgin Vision. It's still on air today, and it shares programmes and content with other CNN newsrooms. As a kid, I knew what CNN was, but the thing is, kids don't watch CNN. It's all too grey and they're not interested in news whatsoever. This logo is the complete opposite of the Children's Channel logo. If they wanted to introduce news to a younger audience, they should try this logo, or a completely different take on the news, which is a Cartoon News Network, which basically mashes the two stations together to create something where Bugs Bunny reads the news.
Yeah, the former president got arrested today after he'd been hiding some official details.
You're watching the History Channel.
The History Channel launched in 1995, and it would mainly show programmes about the war, biographies, Egypt and that kind of stuff. Historical stuff. History Channel. The History Channel used to be owned by A&E Networks, but their dad was Walt Disney. And because Disney had just bought Fox, the European Commission was like, nah. They told Disney to sell off A&E Networks, and guess who bought it? Sneaky old Sky, and they rebranded it to Sky History in 2020.
From the Sky Satellite Network, this is Sky One with the crime of the century.
Yes, that signifies the return back to the Sky channels, and yes, we've already done Sky One. However, there's been a bit of a change on Sky One, so I just want to drop in on it quickly. And it gone through a bit of a transition since 1989. After changing from the Sky channel to Sky One and then merging with BSB in the early 90s, it was a completely different thing by the mid-90s. Out with the Dutch adverts and in with the style, Sky One really found its feet and landed squarely on Entertainment Island, with The Simpsons and WWF wrestling still being mainstays on the channel, along with things like Star Trek: The Next Generation. Sky One would get rebranded a number of times over the years, but in 2021 it got rebranded in name as Sky Showcase, with much of its programs moving to Sky Max. got some things to point out here, and first off, it's like they've gone full circle with the adverts and gone back to the 90s because it's purple, there's those streaky lines, and then the lines form together to make the logo with a purple and blue background. Not forgetting the little bit of pink on the logo. Also, don't know about you, but I think this sounds like a remix of Malcolm McLaren's Double Dutch by Dope Smugglers. This is why I'm terrible to watch Eurovision with.
Sky Movies Gold, a part of the British Sky Broadcasting Network.
Sky Movies Gold, as mentioned earlier, replaced the Comedy Channel in 1992 after the loss of the BBC rights. It originally aired from 4 p.m. until midnight, playing classic movies from the 80s and before. In 1997, it got renamed Sky Cinema, and in later years, they'd be renamed and renumbered, and by 2009, there were a large number of Sky Movie channels like Sky Movies Action and Sky Movies Drama. There were more than 10, and in 2016, Sky would rebrand them all under Sky Cinema.
From the Sky Satellite Network, this is Sky Soap.
Sky Soap would foam up in 1994, and at the launch, not Angela Rippon and not John Barrowman would provide us with some context, and oddly for Sky around this time, some in-vision continuity. Sky Soap cut through the dirt of all the other programming and was fully about the drama. The Sky Channel had afternoon strand of soaps on Sky when it was originally the Sky Channel, but then when it changed to Sky One, it switched the focus to the UK audience and it would end up dropping some soap while adding some others. But in 1994, Sky Soap's programmes would start from 10 o'clock until 3:30, which is a long bath. It would feature programmes such as The Bold and the Beautiful, As the World Turns, and Days of Our Lives. Australian programmes like East Street, and then British programmes like Take the High Road and Families. It would stick around until 1999 when Sky pulled the plug out and drained it all away. By the way, if the name Sky Soap doesn't make any sense, the term soap opera comes from America, where dramas were aimed at women and all the sponsors were soaps and shampoo adverts and cleaning products and stuff.
And before we go, let me remind you that Melrose Place moves to its new regular time of 9 o'clock this evening. That is, of course, over on Sky One. Poor old Michael, what is he going to do, eh?
Never mind poor old Michael. What about Kimberly?
Well, we won't go into that at the moment. But from all of us here at Sky Soap, for the time being, it's cheerio and bon voyage.
Bye.
From the Sky Satellite Network, this is Sky Travel.
Hello and welcome to Sky Travel, your window to the world of holidays and exotic locations.
Sky Travel launched on the same day and on the same channel as Sky Soap, and it showed programmes about, you guessed it, travel. It was pretty much a way of selling holidays and airing shows about travel that didn't fit on Sky News. If only they had a channel about lifestyle called Now that they didn't shut down a few years ago. Sky Soap and Sky Travel would go different ways in success and not in the way you'd think. Yet, Soap lasted until 99 and that closed due to terrible figures after moving to digital, whereas Sky Travel surprisingly transferred well onto Sky Digital. The channel would continue until 2007 when it got rebranded as Sky Real Lives, and that stayed around until 2010.
This is Sky Arts, a part of the British Sky Broadcasting Network.
Sky Arts was a bit of a weird one because it should have launched in 1989 with the Disney Channel, but neither of them did. However, following the merger with BSB, there were contracts that were still bound in regards to BSB's Now channel, and although the news content was covered by Sky, it didn't really fit the other stations, so they replaced Now with Sky Arts. This lasted until the end of 1992 when the channel was closed down. However, skip to the year 2000 and a new channel would launch, and this was called Arts World, and it showcased things like arts across the world along with opera and documentaries. The channel was struggling by 2003, so Sky stepped in and took a 50% share in the station. By 2005, they'd taken 100% of it, and in 2007, they renamed it Sky Arts. It's still broadcasting today. It's 2023. Hello if you're watching from the future. If you are a future person, by the way, hello, hope space is nice. You know, YouTube Iris, that thing that just broadcasts videos to your optical nerves, didn't have that in 2023.
This is Sky 2.
Sky 2 launched originally in 1996, playing the same programs as Sky 1. It made sense that if you had a Sky 1, that you'd have a Sky 2 at some point, and that happened 7 years after the original launch. It played shows that Sky 1 had already aired, so it was pretty much a catch-up channel, but it didn't catch on, and it closed within a year. I suppose the concept of a catch-up channel was ahead of its time in 1996. They'd try again though in 2002 with Sky Mix. Sky Max, forget about it! It would become Sky's second channel, but would be pretty much a catch-up service again, and then in 2005 they'd revert to Sky 2, which I don't think these idents work, because that firstly is not how you spell 2. It's got to have a notch in it to be a W. Secondly, the idents these were made on, the Sky 1 idents, actually say the word 1. That's what the shapes are. I mean, why even bother if you're not going to try? These ones from the next ident package are a lot better, I like them, but 2. There's another 2 there. 2 what? This could legit be ITV2. Well, no, it's not, as we are looking at Sky 2. At least they made more sense. And then this one was the last ones that they used before they changed the name to Sky Replay, which is where we are today. They're probably going to call it Sky Max 2 next time. Or go completely the other way and go Sky Max Greg, Sky Max Bob. If you're fed up of licking batteries to see how much is left, then use this. It comes with every batteries. Duracell. It's food for toys.
When Everest asked me to go on TV and talk about their double glazing, I knew it was good. But I didn't know how good. Of course, I knew all about the famous draft proofing. But I didn't know about this amazing Solar Plus glass. It actually reflects heat back inside your room, and it's fitted as standard. I didn't know that Everest doors lock in 3 different places. How's that for security? And these patio doors. Everest fit them with toughened safety glass as standard. I didn't know that either. But I do now.
Former Blue Peter presenter in hospital after an accident during an advertisement. A man puts a big bag of London on a small Britain. John Major comments. He smoked a big red fag. So those circumstances shows a bitch. Good evening. Children's presenter John Noakes was sent to hospital when a window he was jumping on smashed during an advert. He's said to be comfortable but has 3 broken arms. Tonight on 4 with subtitles. Moving on.
This is Sky Scottish.
Sky Scottish was a joint venture between Sky B and Scottish Television, and it launched in 1996. It was aimed for Scots living outside Scotland and would include shows from Grampian and BBC. Even though the plan was for the station to be around for 7 years, it turns out that targeting Scottish people outside of Scotland wasn't very financially viable. I mean, if I were to say to you that I was going to make a TV station called Sky Bristol and it broadcast across the UK for people from the southwest living somewhere else in the UK, the chances are that nobody's going to give a shit. Especially if your channel is only going to be on for 2 hours a day. It closed 18 months after launch. While we're here, on a side note, I just want to mention about the Scottish television logo because I think that it looks like a punk and he's waving, being like, "Hey, we're here, Scotland!" Granada Sky, on the other hand, well, that was a bit different.
This is Granada Plus.
Granada Television and B-Sky B teamed up to make some new channels in October 1996. The main one, Granada Plus, would start airing Granada's and LWT's huge back catalogue of programmes with some new ones and shows from the other ITV regions. Shows like On the Buses, Coronation Street, Rising Damp, Taggart, There's Been a Murder, Upstairs, Downstairs and sitcoms from the 60s and 70s. The channel would later attempt to drop the Granada name, but it didn't happen. Everyone still called it Granada Plus.
Men and Motors.
Men and Motors was focused on a young male audience fueled by petrol and tits and more petrol.
What's dark and flashes but smells real good? Need any more clues? I think not. Blackpool is the only place to go if you want clubs and girls, and more clubs and definitely more girls. Come on lads, let's do it in Blackpool. Having it large. You know the score. Capture the
What? Granada Talk TV.
Granada Talk TV, which has nothing to do with the current Talk TV, was also launched in October 1997 and was supposed to be a station aimed at talking youth, maybe. I'm not really 100% sure, but that's probably why it had a low audience.
Granada Good Life, TV High Street.
Granada Good Life launched also in October in 96 and it was aimed at a female audience. It featured lifestyle programming, cookery, health and paranormal shows, and it rebranded as Granada Breeze in 1998. The first to die was Granada Talk. It died on the 31st of August 1997, and if that day rings a bell, it wasn't the only thing to die on that day.
We have reports from Paris that Diana, Princess of Wales, has been killed in a car accident and that her partner, Dodi Fayed, has also been killed. They were apparently being pursued by paparazzi on 2 motorcycles.
The channel would cut into Sky News in the early hours of the morning, showing images of Princess Diana's car. The channel never came back. The next was Granada Breeze in 2002. Apparently it was down to ratings and cost, and it meant they could put more tits on Men and Motors. Next, surprisingly, was Granada Plus in 2003. By this point, Granada had merged with Carlton and created the ITV that we all know today, and they needed to make way for ITV3. The last and most painful drawn-out death was from Men and Motors. The writing was on the wall in 2005 with the launch of ITV4, and they were going to get rid of Men and Motors, but ITV kept it because of a spike in audience figures. They also recently shut down the ITV News channel, so ITV4 was moved to there instead, and Men and Motors would finally get off our screens in 2010. Now there's one last channel that I want to mention, and it wasn't on satellite and it's not Sky, so we're done for those now. It was actually only on cable. Now Wire TV launched in 1992 on cable, and it was produced by United Artists Cable. One of their main presenters was Mike Morris from TVAM. They would produce shows from locations covered by the CPP1 group. Sorry, I can't get over that name. CPP1. Why would you even call yourself that? Anyway, it stood for Cable Program Partners. This was a group of cable companies I mentioned before. They'd all agreed to program and content share and stuff on local networks since 1981. This included networks such as 9X, Telewest and Comtel. Mirror newspapers, do you remember them from episode 1? Well, they tried to get back into the television business. They left it in the 1980s after 10, the movie channel, Mirrorvision and Premiere had all finished, and in 1995 the whole Maxwell situation had a new owner, so it didn't really matter. Mirror's newspapers would purchase Wire TV. They decided to close it but relaunch it as Live TV. Some of the bosses at Mirror wanted it to be tabloid television. They broadcast from Canary Wharf, and it was a completely different take on the regular stuff you'd expect on telly.
And now tonight we're going leg crazy with some of the hottest pins on page 3. And we all know good legs need looking after, so we've invited Theresa May into the studio to teach you how to give a good rub.
Theresa May? Surely not. Now, the show pitches for these television shows must have been a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Okay, guys, so we've got this really good idea, right? On television, never ever seen before. Topless darts, what do you think? Ah, brilliant, I like it, but I need some interesting ideas for weather. Yeah, I've got a buddy called Rusty, and he's a dwarf. Do you want to put him on a trampoline and he could just bounce and tell us what the weather is? Will it be terribly cringy to watch in about 25 years' time? Sure will. Carol, have you got any suggestions? Maybe he can tell us what the weather's going to be like. Yeah, interpretive trampoline. You always say the same thing, you cow. Hey, I also know this sexy Norwegian lady who can do the weather. Aye, and get a fucking distracting bunny in background at news. That way, if any princesses die, it'll make it look a bit more fun. The station also had the Y-Files with GWRFM legend Dave Barrett.
Remember, if it's weird, if it's paranormal, if it's supernatural, it's in the Y-Files.
Do you know what, actually, he would be on the paint drying channel too, but unfortunately he's no longer with us. Indecent Proposals. A team of 2 dare the public to do stupid things on the spot for instant money. How much would it take for you to pour beans on you right now?
10 quid. All right then. I'm Jack. I want my magic beans. You are such a sport. I'm Jack and I want my magic beans. You've just made yourself £10, you're an absolute sport.
There was also a segment called Nation Weird, looking at strange stories.
Well, this would never have happened in 1730 when this mine was first opened. Apparently, to let a woman set foot in a mine was considered to be really bad luck.
Oh look, it's Ruth Langsford, and she's down a hole. And she knows quite a bit about holes because she's married to an arsehole. But also, she sent a certain flimsy bunny back to its hole when TSW lost its franchise. I'd have loved to see a reunion. I'd have loved to see what happened if the news bunny was there, but unfortunately none of that happened. Now, Live TV's management included Janet Street Porter, but she would end up leaving early on, Calvin McKenzie, Nick Ferrari, and presenters included Richard Bacon, Charlie State, currently on BBC Breakfast, and Claudia Winkleman. The station closed though in 1999, and I can't really seem to find an exact reason why, but speculation in forums say that Mirror became disinterested and it was costing them a lot of money to keep it going. Plus the viewing figures were as low as heck, not surprised because it was on cable, and the NTL bought them just to close it. Live TV would end up returning from 2003 to 2006, but actually it wasn't anything new, it was just repeated shows. In 2013, the Live TV archive and rights were sold on eBay for just over 14 grand. That means somebody somewhere is sat on a pile of bullshit TV. Right, that's it for this time round. In the next video, I'll be looking at some of the pan-European channels on analog satellite. Now, I looked at a couple of these and I noticed actually, looking at the individual satellites themselves, there were a number of services that I didn't mention, and some of them are really interesting. So I'm going to go through some of those. It might not be as long as the last few videos, but then after that, hopefully I've got another video planned, so it's going to be all good. Stick with me, loads of cool cool stuff going on. Hey, if you like the video though, press like, share it, and don't forget to subscribe. I've been Johnny Robinson, and I'll still be Johnny Robinson after this video is finished. Thank you, bye.